The first thing I have to say right off the top is I am deeply honored and humbled, first of all, to have been chosen tonight as the candidate, and even before that, at the amount of support and enthusiasm that has sort of greeted my decision to do this. It has been already an enormous success as far as I'm concerned. I'm really, really looking forward to what we're going to do for this city for the next few months, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. The first thing I need to do, I could spend the whole night thanking everyone in the room. I won't do that. I'm only going to thank three people off the top here, and the three people who are the most responsible for me standing here. One of them, who you'll hear more about later, and more from later, is of course Elizabeth May, who many of you know is an incredibly persuasive person. She talked me into doing something I vowed I would never do.
And then I talked you running for office.
The second person I need to thank, and I will be saying more about Elizabeth later, but not about that specifically. Second person I need to thank is my campaign manager, Leah Rothschild. Right down here. You haven't already met him. Introduce yourself. He's also a very persuasive person, and pretty much everything that has worked well to date in this new campaign is down to him and the people that he's attracted to work on it. And the third person I need to thank is the person who's really the most responsible for making this happen, and is going to be the other half of the candidate's mind, and that's my wife Ashley Bristow down here in the front, who actually has a much better feel for this than I do. So when I get confused and thrown by the whole process, she's my rock and my guide. Without further ado, I will tell you a little bit about why I'm doing this and how it is that it came to happen and what I think we can accomplish here. So first, I should have already said this, but I do have a confession to make. I'm not one of those people who always wanted to be a member of Parliament. I didn't grow up always thinking this was my dream. I'm mainly running because Calgary needs a strong, authentic, moderate voice in Ottawa. It needs it now, and it turns out apparently I'm that voice. But as I said, this is actually not, what I do. I'm not a politician, never aspired to be one. I wasn't the kid in high school, who was the class president. I was the kid kind of whispering in the class president's ear, here's a good idea, you should try out. I'm good at that, for sure. Now I have to whisper in my own ear, which is harder to do. Although I always agree with myself, which is great. And of course, this has led to the main occupation for all of my working life, which is really what I do as a journalist, as a speaker, as a person who's been involved at the local level here in Calgary, is finding people doing good things and helping them to tell their stories. And that really is what I feel like is my calling, is to find those people and tell their stories. So why am I running? Why now in Calgary Centre, at the very heart of Stephen Harper's Canada? I'm running basically because Elizabeth May told me a great story about good people doing amazing things. And when she got to the end of the story, it turned out I was the main character. And I was stuck. I'm going to start with the ending, which is the part she loves to tell. The way the story ends, she's gone back to Parliament after Christmas break, and the House Speaker is taking roll call. That's probably not even the right term for it. She'll know the right term for it. And after he announces her name, he says, the Honourable Member for Calgary Centre. And sitting next to her is the second Green MP in Canadian history, and it's me. So, I was saying, isn't that a great story? That here on Stephen Harper's doorstep, Calgarians from across the political spectrum came together and said, you know what, this is not just a conservative town. There's more to Calgary than a single party. There's more to Calgary than a single narrow ideology that shuts out more and more Canadians each day. Wouldn't it be great to tell a story about how Calgary, this young, dynamic city that we all love, how Calgary came together to tell the true story of what kind of place it is today? Wouldn't it be great to tell the story about how moderate Calgarians united to mount the greatest political upset in a generation? Don't you want to be a part of that story? Don't you want to help me tell it? Yes. And that's why you get in touch with Natalie before you leave and you volunteer, because we need lots of people on the ground. So that is why I'm running, because Calgary is ready for that story. Calgary's ready to make that kind of history. And there are all kinds of great reasons to to be part of this campaign and why I'm leading it. But tonight I want to tell you about the three most important ones, and then I'll cede the floor. The first reason, to start with the bad news, is that right now we are on the wrong path for Canada's future. Fundamentally the wrong path. This is the path we need to abandon as soon as possible, the path that this government has set us on. Stephen Harper's Conservatives have lost their way, whatever that way once was. They talk about transparency, but they thrive on secrecy. They talk about openness, but they demand absolute control. This government's path is squandering opportunity, abandoning reason and science for short-term profit. Instead of treating our resources as a sacred trust and a one-time only opportunity to build Canada's brightest possible future, this government treats Canada's natural wealth like it's a business in liquidation. Everything must go. We'll act now. Limited supplies. And what's more, this is a government that takes Calgary for granted. They assume they're going to win this seat and go back to business as usual with one more Conservative sitting in the House of Commons. I actually saw a post on Twitter saying a 2x4 could win this seat for the Conservatives. Which I thought was a pretty mean thing to say about their candidate, frankly. That's Twitter for you. But this is at a moment when Calgary needs full federal support to build the infrastructure it needs as Canada's fastest growing city. At this moment, when we need the federal government most of all as a partner, Calgary's MPs are shrugging their shoulders over new C-train lines. They're dragging their heels about paying for rec centers in new communities on the outskirts of Calgary, on the sort of outer belt of Calgary. In the 2011 election campaign, there was only one federal party leader who came to Calgary, took the time to campaign here. Know who it was?
Yes.
Elizabeth. She spent more time in the riding than Canadian MPs did. So that's one reason to tell this story, because we are on the wrong path, and our brightest possible future is in danger of slipping away from us on that path. Which brings me to the second great reason that I want to tell this story, and it's because this is the time to vote Green, right now. I know I wouldn't have considered running under any other banner. Our intention is to unite Calgarians from across the political spectrum, but Greens are the banner that I will stand under. Why the Green Party? Why now? Because only the Greens have their priorities straight. Only the Green Party platform recognizes that the balance between economic success and ecological health is a fundamentally false balance. The economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of nature. Always has been, always will.
Hear, hear.
You can't balance these things, but one relies on the other. And the Green Party not only recognizes this, it's the only party that recognizes this as the sort of baseline of why it does what it does. That sustainability is not an accessory, and a healthy planet is certainly not a luxury. If we intend to pass on to our children and our grandchildren a world at least as wonderful and durable as the one we've prospered in, then sustainability has to be our first priority, not an afterthought or a marketing strategy or something we say to sound good at the right kind of photo op. And this is particularly important, I would argue, for Calgary, because it's Canada's energy capital, where Stephen Harper's divisive government attacks critics of the city's largest industry rather than engaging them. It's the job of government to find common ground between an industry and its critics, not to pick a side and cheerlead. The Conservatives would like to elect another cheerleader for Calgary Centre. That's what they're looking for. I'm here to find that common ground, a place that will serve every Calgarian, whether they're working in the oil patch or they're not. It's time for a new kind of conversation. This is really, really key. A new kind of conversation about energy in Calgary Centre and all across Canada. And I think the Green Party can really lead that conversation. It can lead it the same way that I feel, Elizabeth really led the conversation about what that terrible budget bill meant for Canada this spring. And by the way, on a quick personal aside, I was already a Green voter, but I think a large part of why I was willing to stand as a Green candidate was because of that leadership that Elizabeth showed in that debate. It was really a tremendous... So as I said, I think the Green Party can continue to lead this conversation. I want to be clear about something actually right off the top, though, when I talk about energy, because there is this misconception out there. I'm not looking to shut down the oil patch. That's not what the Green Party's in business to do. As Greens, we want that energy industry to succeed, as never before, in fact, and we want to expand on that success by investing in a viable, sustainable economy powered more and more by renewable energy with a robust and reliable job market in a whole number of sectors. But that brightest future is not going to come by putting all our eggs in one basket. Let's not just say that we're the energy capital of Canada because it sounds nice. Let's actually do it. We need a diverse energy economy, and we can start here. We need to lead not just in the extraction of fossil fuels, but in technological innovation across the energy sector. This could be the green energy capital of Canada.
Yes.
And I think we need to make it so. Calgary has the money, we have the people, we have the technological know-how to become not just the capital of the oil patch, but of the entire energy economy. A worldwide leader for real. We launched this campaign a few days ago. Some of you were there with me on a wind-powered sea train. One of those things not a lot of Calgarians know is that wind energy powers your sea train. And that was a fine start, I thought, but we've only just begun. And that brings me to the main reason why I'm here to tell this story. I want to tell this story because I really do believe this is Calgary's moment. We all know how smart and diverse and optimistic this city is, how much energy it has. Now we need somebody in Ottawa who knows how to tell that story. This election isn't about party loyalties. It isn't about who's going to get to live in that house on Sussex Drive. This by-election is not going to change the government or the balance of power in Parliament. This election gives Calgarians a real opportunity to send a clear message to Ottawa. It's about what kind of city Calgary is now and what kind of representation it needs now. This election is about what kind of story Calgarians want to tell. And I believe we want to tell a new story, a story no one's heard before on that national stage. I believe we want to tell a story about how Calgarians from every walk of life, people from every party, every political stripe, people from no party at all, people who've never even voted before, all came together. We came together to tell a story full of youthful energy, a story bursting with optimism, a story about a young, diverse city that has found a new voice to speak clearly and openly about that brightest possible future. We've told that story, I think, a little bit at City Hall now. Now we want to tell it in the House of Commons. It's a story that no one's ever heard, and a lot of people think is impossible. A story about how Calgary sent a Green Party candidate who's never run for office to Ottawa in 2012. So this is the story I want to tell. And I need every one of your help to tell it. Thank you again for the nomination. We are going to run a campaign the likes of which this city has never seen. I promise you that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We need you all on board. And I will now pass the mic on to Elizabeth May, the leader of the National Green Party of Canada.